Good. Planning your futures.
Yes. Okay.
Excellent. Cool. Hey, everyone. Cool. So, brilliant. So you've been working your way through all of that. That's fantastic. And that's it, really. It's just always thinking ahead and working out what your next steps are. That's important because it really just helps you moving in the right direction. So, what I'm going to do now is just talk through the Creative Business Toolkit. I'm aware that we're ticking on with time, so I may do the second presentation to follow. I'll let Dan, you can direct me on that. But what I'm going to do is basically screen share again. Let me just get this going so that I can go back in to presentation. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm just putting that over here. So I've got to kind of keep an eye on what I'm sending you because I thought I was sending you me more than I was. So I'll try and come back to the feed a little more than I was. Okay, cool. So on to Creative Business Toolkit. So I know that in the planner, it's talked through different types of tools for different types of activities, and that's the key thing to be thinking about. It's not about having masses of apps and masses of tools. It's about having a really good, tight toolkit that lets you do your common activities on a day-to-day basis. So, motivation. One of the things I always remember is happiness leads to success, and what motivates creative workers like us is definitely basically intrinsic rewards, things that are basically intangibles, feeling good, feeling like you have meaning and purpose. It's a great book called Drive by Daniel Pink, well worth the read. I think you can get an ebook version of it online. But thinking about what motivates you, whenever you're sort of a bit stuck, have a think, like, if you're in a scene in a play, you turn to the director and say, what's my motivation? So sometimes I find when you kind of get a bit caught up in day-to-day stuff and you're not sure what to do next, just take a step back and remind yourself why you're doing it. So strategy is really, really important. If you have a clear strategy, it gives you clear direction and it helps you make decisions along the way. I had a strategy to move to New Zealand. I knew when I wanted to be here. I knew where I wanted to be here. But the how I worked out along the way. Obviously I had a plan, but things change. So the thing I say about strategy is it's about thinking about where you want to be, thinking about where you are now, and then basically coming up with a series of short-term action plans that get you closer to where you want to be. It's not a plan, it's a direction. And when you're thinking about planning, two tips are thinking about every so often it's really good to do your SWOT, which I know is in the planner. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. It's a tried and tested formula. And here's setting SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and have a time frame on them. And one of the really clever things that I came across when I was researching my book, which is based on neuroscience, is thinking about posing goals as questions. Because basically, so for example, end of last year, I decided that I wanted to exercise more. But rather than just saying, I'm going to exercise more, I mean, we've all been there, we've all done that, I will do this. I posed the question, how will I exercise more? And immediately I came up with solutions, which are walking to meetings, standing up at work. I've started doing Muay Thai at a local gym. I dance in the day. I crank up the music. I do yoga apps. Because I posed that goal as a question, immediately my brain was spitting out solutions. So if you have, if you really think about what you want to be doing, instead of just saying, I want to do X, think about how will I do that, and immediately your subconscious starts to come up with solutions. So it's a really good brain hack to do is setting your setting as questions. So basically strategy is key. It's really important to have one. Without one you haven't got direction, and if you don't know where you're going you'll never get there, which is a good phrase. So just always be in mind of your direction. Now money is one of the key constraints, the key things that everybody struggles with in the creative industries is basically time versus money. There's different ways of thinking about how you raise money to fund your ventures. There's the two kind of key routes are bootstrapping or borrowing. Bootstrapping is generating income based on making sales, which is the healthiest way to grow, because it means that you're making money as you go. And that's kind of how we've based our business. It takes longer, but you're in more control. You can get investors, you can borrow, but it's one of these things that in the early days you just got to do it yourself. You've got to self-fund it. However, you can now look at crowdfunding. So, it actually came out of music and film, the idea of crowdfunding. The first example I could ever find was Marillion, the rock band, who crowdfunded an American tour, and since then, it was early 90s, since then every album they've sold, they've crowdfunded to their fan base. And there was a film in 2008 called A Swarm of Angels that raised $1 million through crowdfunding to produce the film. And since then, we've now got loads of crowdfunding platforms. But the key thing with crowdfunding, and I'll point you at some links later because I've written a step-by-step guide to crowdfunding, is getting crowdfunding ready. And you need to have a crowd before you can go to them and fund. So it is about building up your followers on your social media and actually getting your community networking going first. And there's various platforms. I will say, if you're not sure which ones to choose, think about where your fans are going to be. In New Zealand, you've got Pledge Me, you've also got Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Celeband, there's whole loads of them, but the links I'll point you at later just talk you through all of these. And the one tool that I'd like to mention now, which is quite new, but I think is really exciting, especially for the space that you're all in, is Patreon. Patreon is a way that people can become patrons of the arts. So if you're producing regular content, if you're putting out regular video clips, or you're doing a series of podcasts, or anything that's on a regular publishing schedule, people can patronize you, and they can basically donate on a regular basis to help you fund your publications. So that's well worth looking at, and I'm really excited about it. It's been quite a lot of people in Twitch TV channels are starting to use it, and pretty good money. So yeah, just think about ways that you can earn, as well as going out to your community. The Bootstrapper's Bible is an excellent book. I based our whole business, the early stages of our business, on it. You can get a free copy by following this link. But it basically breaks down how you can get projects up and running if you haven't got any money. And it is possible. It is hard, but you can do it. So don't be put off of, oh, I can't do something because I haven't got enough money, because you can. There are ways of doing this. So Creative Commons, there's a video here you can watch which we actually produced at Mohawk Media. This was one of our early infographics. You can just see that playing in the background. As creative professionals, Creative Commons is really, really important. Not only as a publishing tool, which encourages people to share your work, possibly even remix it, mash it up, republish it, but also ways of sourcing Creative Commons content that you can use in your own work. Because there's loads of libraries out there with music and images and video clips that you can use and reuse quite happily without any copyright issues. So some of the tools here that I'm pointing you at, CC Mixter is audio, Flickr, images. You can do a search on Flickr for Creative Commons assets. There's loads and loads of public domain or Creative Commons licensed content out there that you can freely use. And this is basically just showing an example of CC Kiwi, which is a design that someone's come up with, and basically the different types of Creative Commons license that you could use, all the way from a simple by attribution license, which means anyone can do anything they want with it, apart from all they have to do is make sure they give you an attribution, which is the one that you're seeing on screen right now. And that allows people to remix, republish, repurpose your content, but they have to give you a credit for it. It goes all the way up to the most restrictive license, which basically stops people using it for commercial use, and you can't make any derivatives. So it's really important to you to have an understanding about how Creative Commons licensing works, because it's a fantastic tool for bringing copyright into the digital age. Now, there's lots of great platforms as well where you can self-publish and print your work, from music through to art, through to merchandise. Zazzle, you can sell your own T-shirts. Spoonflower, you can design fabrics. There's a lot of them out there, right the way through to 3D printing. So just be aware that there are also Vimeo, for example. You can now publish video content on Vimeo that people have to pay to view. So again, you may find that with some of the work that you're doing, there are spaces and places you can publish which will create income for you. And the thing that's exciting is that it's income directly from the fans to you, with no middlemen taking their cut along the way. And that's the really exciting thing about where we're at right now in this new space. So onto the business toolkits. I'm going to keep this short because I'm going to I want to just quickly show you through some of these tools. And I've made a short list of the tools that we use on a day-to-day basis at Mohawk based on the different types of activities that we want to be doing, because everybody has, there's common activities that every type of organization needs to do. You need to be able to communicate, you need to be able to collaborate, you need to be able to send messages, which could be in real time in chats, or it might be through email where people can pick them up later. You need to promote yourself, you need to manage projects, and so there's all these activities which are just part and parcel of managing your day-to-day communications and collaborations. So I'm going to pop over to the Trello board and start talking you through some of the links in there. But just doing a sum up on that strategy point that earlier on that I talked about, the thing about having a good strategy, and more importantly, really thinking through the values that you hold, helps you make the right decisions along the way. It helps you keep going in the right direction, and when you get caught up and you're not sure where to go, you can take a step back and go, is this decision I'm making today getting me any closer to where I want to be long term? Because this is one of the difficult things, is when you're head down making and producing, you kind of lose sense of the long-term goals that you have. So every so often you have to take your head back up, take a step back and go, okay, what am I doing? And am I doing the right things today to help me to get to where I want to be tomorrow? Because one of the biggest problems about operating as a creative professional, or any kind of professional, is you get decision fatigue. Decisions are really tiring, and I talked earlier about managing attention and focus and energy. Every decision you make takes a little bit of your energy away. And sometimes you're just not sure what the right decision is. So whenever I get to that point, I take a step back, think about my values, think about my goals, think about my direction, and that really helps make the right decisions today, because I can measure them against those core foundational underlying principles that I've put in place. So I talk about having a long-term vision, but short-term action plans, and every goal that you set, pose it as a question, because then you'll get lots of answers. So just going to switch over to the Trello board so I can show you some of the links. So basically, money tools. There's a few cool money tools that you might find useful. One of them is made in New Zealand. Well, actually, both of these two are made in New Zealand. There's a tool called Pocketsmith, which is designed by a company, I think, down in Dunedin, and it helps you track your spending. And this is one of the things as well about being successful, is tracking and measuring where your activities are happening and also what results are happening. So Pocketsmith is like a personal financial management tool where it allows you to track your spending, categorize it, and it predicts your cash flow. And it's for personal money management, but it gets you into good practices for when you have to manage money as a business or as an entrepreneur. The tool that we use here to manage our invoicing and our cash flow projections and basically all of our accounts is Xero, which is fantastic. Again, it's made in New Zealand. It's our first ever billion-dollar business in New Zealand, based out of Wellington. It's brilliant. You'll need to be earning a little bit before you need to step up to it, but it's one of those professional tools that starts about $20 a month, depending on how many invoices you have to send, and believe me, it's worth it. Once you're up and running and you have multiple clients, multiple projects, it really helps you keep track of money. I've also got 3 links here to articles on the Big Idea about crowdfunding. So the Big Idea creative community, you should all be a member of the Big Idea. It's a great place for showcasing your work, also for finding jobs. If you sign up, you get a weekly email that goes out every Thursday. which basically talks about all the creative industries jobs that are happening. There's loads of content on there. So join up, become a member, and when you start producing content, think about adding your content to the showcase. And it's a really fantastic way of just getting your first jobs in the industry. So there's 3 articles here breaking down crowdfunding step by step, from planning through to performing, and then promoting, which are the 3 key stages of running a crowdfunding campaign. So yeah, you can have, rather than me running through now, you can have a good read into this, and just it will give you a step-by-step guide on basically what you need to be thinking of. There's another great site that I recommend as well, because one of the scariest things at the beginning is the first time you get asked to create an invoice or a contract. And you're like, I don't know, how do I write one of these? Docracy is a fantastic online space which is full of free legal contracts that you can take and then remix for your own purposes. So don't be worried. There's places you can go to find out. And once you've got your contract and your terms and your invoice in place, you just use the same one time and time again. But it's really important to have that. And that's, again, just part of your professional toolkit. So I'm just going to quickly run you through the tools that we use every day, or I use personally every day. So of course you've got your Gmail, Google Docs, Hangouts, and YouTube, standard stuff. They're brilliant services. Google Docs is great because you can work collaboratively. So for script writing, we quite often set up in a Google Doc, invite our clients in, invite the team in, and we work on scripts collaboratively. For research, I like to use a tool called Feedly. It allows me to subscribe to regular content from websites, and I'm not sure if I'm logged in. It's actually on my other login. But you can basically sign up. So you come across a good site. You can see I've got a few of them set up here. It comes in this really nice magazine format, which you can change. So you can basically change the view of it to just titles, or looking like a magazine, or just cards. But it saves me searching for research content or searching for news, and it keeps me focused into just the content I'm interested in. So in my other login, I've got heaps of different, I've got stuff about entrepreneurs, I've got stuff about design, I've got stuff about stuff that I'm researching or I'm interested in. I'll go around, I'll find good sites, I'll subscribe to them in Feedly. So you can see there's also great sites that you can just subscribe to through Feedly. Lifehacker is a particularly brilliant one. So I can just show you if I want to subscribe to Lifehacker. Great. I'll go for that. Thank you very much. And then I can add it into my text section. And then it will just pull in all those Lifehacker stories for me into the same space without me having to go to Lifehacker every time there's a new bit of content published. So you can see that over time that will save you a lot of time. And one of the things to remember about working with online media is the browser is one of the most distracting environments you can possibly work in. If you're reading news in a browser, it's so easy to click a link and just go off down random pathways. Whereas if you pull all of your news into Feedly, which works brilliantly on iPhones, Android phones, pretty much all devices, you just focus on the news. Yep.
Could you just back up a little bit, because you kind of froze for a second? So if you could just.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
The browser is a distracting place from there.
Yeah, so the browser is really a really distracting place to be in. The problem is when you're reading news in a browser, you can click on a link and get taken out, on all sorts of different random pathways, which are taking you away from what you need to be doing, which is reading your news. So I bring all of my news into Feedly, which I can read on my phone, my tablet, on my browser, online, though I avoid it if at all possible. But what it lets me do is just have a really great central repository of news stories that I can, for my research. And you can just add new sites as you go. So let's say you come across a great site that's got loads of great content on, add it to your Feedly subscriptions, and then use Feedly for researching and reading rather than doing it online in your browser. And like I said, and it looks really gorgeous on tablets and mobile devices. So the next tool that I like to use for saving bookmarks, because of course I do a whole load of research, constantly researching, is Diigo, D-I-I-G-O. So I basically, anytime I come across a great article and I haven't got time to read it, I'll save it to DIGO, and then it allows me to go in, highlight the bits I'm interested in, tag it, and then when I'm ready to do something with it, I can go there and I can pull it out, and it will just extract the highlighted bits. So again, it gets me out of the browser and into a central space where I can just work on all of that research that I've collated. Now, the big one, the one that we use that is the hub of our company. So I've talked about Trello. Trello is fantastic for small project teams. It's fantastic for personal projects. But when you step up to the size that we operate at, which, I mean, like some of my clients are government ministries like the Department of Internal Affairs and Domain Name Commission. So, you know, I'm talking large organizations. What we use to manage everything, so all of our client projects that we run, are through a tool called Teamwork. And Teamwork's great. So Teamwork, you probably wouldn't need to use it now, but when things get complicated and you need to start running really big, you know, complex projects with lots of people, where you want to actually assign tasks to people, it's more of a sophisticated project management tool that will grow as big as you need to. So you probably don't need it right now, but I have got a lot of people that I work with onto, I mean, all of our creatives, all of our freelancers work through Teamwork. Whenever they send me a file, they send it through Teamwork. Whenever we talk about a project, we do it through Teamwork. So it all happens in a centralized space. And the great thing about it is that, like most of the tools that I show, basically you can set up a free account and it will give you 2 free projects under the free plan. So you can just set one up. So I say to people, if you want to have a play with it, set up a free Teamwork account, do 1 project for personal projects, 1 for client stuff, and then just have a play with it. So, you know, it might be too complicated and too sophisticated for what you need right now. However, down the line, it could be a real sanity saver, and I could not run my company without Teamwork. I pay for the login now because it's just so valuable, and it's like an intranet. It's just everything goes through Teamwork. You know, whenever anyone goes, "Where's the such and such a file?" It's in Teamwork. You know, everything goes in there, and it just means that nothing ever gets forgotten. So, chats. Generally, I like to use Hangouts for day-to-day with internal, but there's a fantastic tool called Slack. I know the guy behind Slack, Stuart Butterfield. His previous company was Flickr, so he's built some really successful companies. Again, free accounts. You can be up and running and use it for free. It's a live chat tool that also allows you to send files to each other. So I think this could be a very, very useful productivity tool for the kind of work that you guys do, where you might be in different locations, you might need to send video files across to each other and have a discussion about them and keep those conversations in a central space, because that's the key thing. If there is a central space that everyone can go to track the conversations, you don't have to spend time updating people on what's being done. They can see what's being done. So meeting times. One of the biggest time sinks when you're working across multiple locations is choosing the right time to have a meeting. Doodle is great. It's really simple. You just set up a few meeting slots on a certain day, invite people in. It's a really simple poll. People go in and tick the times they're available, and then from that you can choose when is the right time to have a meeting. And I sit on a few advisory boards, and this is how we basically coordinate people who are, you know, scattered across the country. They've got really big jobs, and it can be very hard sometimes to find the right time to meet. So Doodle it. It's great. Files, Dropbox is good. I'm sure a lot of you have been using Dropbox. It's not great for everything. Not every person can use it. Some of our clients, especially ones in government departments, they don't have access to it because of security risks. But we do use Dropbox for some things. We also use a tool, so for delivering files. So again, you know, we deliver large-scale infographics, large-scale videos. WeTransfer is really, really handy. It's free. They pay basically they make the income by having adverts on the browser page, but it's really handy for sending some files to clients, because basically you can send up to 50 gigabytes. You just drag the files into here, send, and then you get an email as soon as the files have been delivered, and then it also sends you an email when the files have been downloaded. And that's brilliant because I know my client has picked up those files. I know they've been delivered. So again, if we're sort of bouncing stuff around and we need to get stuff, it can be a little slow sometimes, but it's one we've been using more and more. If we're delivering video, so this is usually at the point at which we're delivering final videos to clients, we use Vimeo. Benefit of Vimeo is we have a pro account, which means we can set up a password on it, so only our clients can pick it up. And Vimeo does all of the encoding and works out the codecs and everything, and gives our clients a really nice password protected page where they can download a HD quality version, a standard version, and a mobile version, and then it's up to them to pull the files down when we've delivered them. Now, another tool that I have really, I don't think we could do without anymore is Whipster. Now, Whipster is brilliant, and it's exactly the right kind of tool for the work that you're in, which is producing video content. One of, as you probably aware, one of the biggest time sinks when you're producing video content can be getting feedback from people, and working on all of the changes, the incremental changes that you have to make. And it can be a nightmare because you get an email and someone writes a time code and they write a little bit of information about what they want happening, but sometimes it's really difficult to work out what they mean, so you end up ringing them up and then it gets even more confusing. So we've been using Whipster for about a year. Again, it's a New Zealand tool that's been built in Wellington. I met them when they first launched, and it's a video review and approval tool. So what we do is during the early stages of production, we'll put a series of Whipster videos up, invite our clients in to comment, and then people can add comments directly onto the screen. It's just really useful. So those comments then, I'll just do a screen share so you can see, those comments are then turned into a list of to-dos for us. So you can see, you drag and drop your video, you put it up, you then share it with people, so you invite the right people in. It could be your clients. We also use it internally for just our production team. Sometimes it's client-facing, sometimes it's just internal, because the great thing is then you go in along the timeline and you can actually point out the key areas on the screen and what the comments are. And each of these comments then comes in as a to-do list. So it makes the whole feedback and iteration process so much easier. And then at the very end, when you get the final version of it, there's a button that allows you to, or the client to basically say, yeah, I've signed that off. And at that point, once it's signed off, we will then do the final post-production and we will upload it to Vimeo for final delivery. So Whipster, as a time-saving tool, has been amazing, and I can't recommend it enough. And again, you can try it for free with excellent, so many minutes that you can upload every month. It's great. And again, made in New Zealand, which is quite exciting. So the last few tools that I recommend is basically Hootsuite. Now this is one I'll reference again in the next presentation, but it's for managing social media channels, multiple social media channels in my case. You can have up to 3 accounts running through Hootsuite. And so, for example, I've got 3 Twitter accounts that I run through here. One of them's for my company, at Mohawk Media. One of them is for me, at Ms. Behaviour. And the other one is for my book, which is at I Dance at Work. You can see I've got 3 streams here. I can basically see my tweets, any mentions, any followers, my inbox. And it also makes me adding new contacts really easy. So, for example, you can see in Dance at Work, I had a new follower today. I can even see what their clout score is, which I'll talk about soon. And I can just follow them from here. So it's a centralized dashboard that allows me to write messages. It will also work with Facebook pages, LinkedIn, Tumblr. There's lots of different apps that it works with. But instead of it having, bits and bobs coming in from all these different channels, it's just a centralized space where I can manage everything in one place. So Hootsuite's great. Again, it's free for 3 accounts. It saves me a lot of time. And WordPress, yeah, WordPress is what we use for our business website. It's a really powerful, very sophisticated, good tool. And there's lots of people who can help with WordPress. I used to be a web developer, so that's the thing. I've actually hand-coded sites and done stuff. I've been building sites since 1994 with HTML. But WordPress is a content management system. It's very good. You can either use their hosted version on WordPress.com, or if you have server space of your own, you can host it on your own space. But it's good. You can add widgets to make it do more. So, for example, I have a Pinterest widget on my Dance at Work site. I have a Twitter widget. So you can make WordPress do more by pulling in widgets, and there's loads of them. And there's always someone who can help you with WordPress. And then the other one that I mentioned in that link, which I've just started using for presentations, is a tool called Haiku Deck. I really like. I put together a presentation just the other day, which I've linked to in here. But what it does is it lets you put together slides really easily with either your own images or Creative Commons images that Haiku Deck will search for you. So when you go through, so this is, you can have a look at this. Here we go. So yes, this is a Haiku Deck. It's classic. So this is what someone would see when you're presenting. Some of these images are mine. Some of them I've just pulled from Haiku Deck. But I know that all of the images that it searches for are Creative Commons licensed, so I don't need to worry about them. And the most powerful presentations I've ever seen are just people talking over pictures. But the great thing is if you're running Haiku on a tablet, an iOS device, and you have private notes, you can basically be presenting. This is what the public see, and you've got your notes to basically crib while you're doing your presentation. So great tool, way better than PowerPoint, and death to PowerPoint is my view. So that is basically the toolkit for the next day. So that really is my top tools, the tools that I could not do without on a regular basis. So any questions?
A lot to absorb. Yeah,
exactly.
Fantastic tools. And I just want to remind you guys that you can play along if you want to go log on to Moodle and read. Like Helen's Trello thing. Trello was just is on Moodle, and the next one is going to be on Haiku Deck. Is that right?
Yeah, Haiku Deck. So I've got a very quick promotions, but I'll whip through this really quickly for you, and then I'll finish off with one on privacy. So I'm aware that time's ticking on there. So if I just move over to the...
Let me just,
yeah.
If I might just take 30 seconds, I'll keep rolling and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do that. Turn around once and then sit back down or something. Stretch. Just need a little...
Yeah, keep on moving. I do it all the time. I'm on my chair today, on my stool, but normally I stand up at this desk, and it really helps.
This is our new teaching and learning space.
Yeah, it's nice.
Monitors are computers.
Yeah.
With wireless keyboards.
Yeah,
so
nice.
The students had been breaking off and doing their exercise today.
Brilliant.
Each on their own computer.
Yep.
Main screen, which is interactive, touch screen. So. Okay.
Cool. Okay, cool. So I'll whip through this one as quickly as possible, and then we can get some questions at the end. So I'll just do another screen share. So really, this is kind of going into just really going through more, just what I've kind of covered. I've put a really good little video in here, but like I said, it's because I'm not getting audio play. You can go and watch this after the event because you're going to have links. But social media, in a nutshell, PR, public relations used to be you dictating the communication. It's two-way now. People can read and comment, watch and tweet, engage and participate. And you want to have conversations with people. The more that they're connecting to you and talking to you, the better. Again, strategy, as with everything, is sorry about that, just go back one. Yeah, strategy is thinking about what you want to achieve from it really dictates your strategy and your actions. So you want to think, why am I on social media in the first place? What do I want to achieve from it? When should I be on there and what should I be doing? I talk about going where the eyeballs are, so going to spaces where people are already rather than trying to drive people to your own space. Thinking about who you want to reach and following interesting people. And the other great thing is you can use it as what we call the lazy web, where if you have a question about something and you've been researching and you can't find the answer, go to your followers because they probably have the answer and people are quite happy to help. So sometimes I'll do a quick session going, dear lazy web, does anyone know the answer to this? And usually within 5 minutes someone will answer me. Metadata is really important. This is what is the underlying connection between all these distributed bits of content, is the metadata. And hashtags are really important. So when you're tweeting or you're putting anything out, think about the keywords that you're going to be using. Keep them consistent. Have a look on search.twitter for hashtags. So whenever I publish anything on Mohawk Media, I usually use the hashtag infographics, dataviz, #NZ. And that picks up anyone who's looking for infographics globally, anyone who's looking for data visualization, and anyone who's interested in New Zealand. And one of the important things to realize with YouTube is that most content is found through related links. So if you have the right keywords and the right metadata and the right description, you're more likely to have your content connected to the right kind of content so people will find your work. It's really important. So I've talked about Hootsuite. Just as a quick overview, Facebook is great for fans if you're doing crowdfunding campaigns, but it can be a huge time sink. And you have to think, what's the purpose? Where's the right place to go? However, LinkedIn is very important. All of you should have a LinkedIn profile and see it as your professional profile and your online CV. Because you can actually export your LinkedIn profile as a PDF, and very rarely now I get asked for a CV. But if I do, I just get the PDF from LinkedIn because it's up to date. Have a look at Twitter lists. Think always as well, keep your tweets as short as possible because you want people to retweet. So don't use up all of 140 characters. Leave space for people to go in. And there's a few good tools which I'll run through at the end, which get you thinking as well about where your followers are and things like what's the right time of day to be tweeting, stuff like that. Because, because people aren't online the whole time. So it's really again about what am I trying to achieve, and then that leads to the how am I going to do it. And then media monitoring is important. Setting up Google Alerts for your name and names of any projects that you're working on, hashtags or information that you're tracking for research. Google Alerts are free, they're great. So I've got one set up for Helen Baxter, I've got one set up for Mohawk Media, I've got one set up for Dance at Work, and various other things that I'm just tuned into at the moment. Clout is a social reputation measurement system. So, it's the beginning of more online reputation systems. So you saw earlier when I looked at Hootsuite, and I looked at my followers list, I could see what people's clout levels are. And that makes me think, okay, do I want to follow this person? Oh, yeah, probably so, because their clout's quite high. And what you want is you want people to follow you, like you, retweet you, and mention you. It is all about this conversation. There's a free book that I definitely recommend. Tweet This Book, written by a friend of mine. He's got a background in advertising, and he's also on Radio Live, I think, at the moment, called Tweet This Book. Download this. It talks you through the different platforms and gives you some really good case studies of how New Zealanders are using social media really successfully, like Giapo up in Auckland and the Wine Vault TV. Just some really good tried and tested tips. So that's just a quick whistle-stop tour through promotions. What I'm going to do is, I'll just give you a very quick Haiku deck on privacy, because with promotions, it's all about trying to get people to, it's about getting your information out to as many people as possible. However, you do also need to realize that sometimes there's information about yourself you don't want out publicly. So privacy, being aware of privacy as opposed to promotions is really important. And I just put this through. Basically, this is the internet and this is privacy. If it's on the internet, it is not private. So always remember that. Again, if you're going to look or sound like a Muppet, don't post. This information that you're putting out online is there forever. And you just have to really consider how someone asked earlier about how you present yourself and your brand. all of the messages you put out online affect your brand. And you hear instances of, you know, your future boss might be watching. Your future boss may know what you're saying and doing on Facebook. So just have that at the back of your mind. And if in doubt, don't tweet it. There's some great tools. Sometimes some of you may be working in journalism, you may be working in activism. There may be some times where you don't want a record of your activities to be saved. So DuckDuckGo is a search tool where your searches are not tracked and they're not saved anywhere. The Tool project is a way that you can browse incognito and no one can trace back to where it's come from. CryptoCat is an online tool that you can use which gives you private chat rooms which are encrypted, so only you and the people in the room can see what your conversations are. Mailvelope is a way that you can encrypt emails, and then TrueCrypt lets you encrypt hard drive files. So just be aware that there are tools out there, and in some cases you might need to think about it. Like a friend of mine, a good example of why, a friend of mine was the guy who produced Propaganda, the movie, which has been hugely successful, but he has got him, basically noticed by the US government, and he had to be really careful when he was producing the movie to keep as much of what he was doing as private as possible. So these are the kind of tools that are available for that. There's a great site called Prison Break, which gives you a whole list of these kind of tools, and it's constantly up to date. And then also thinking about security, LastPass.com is a password management tool which I use because I have so many apps. I don't want to use the same password for everyone, and I know we're all bad at that. But a good way of being more secure with your password is think of a passphrase. So it could be a phrase from your favorite song, or it could be a line from a movie that you like, but that is always going to be a lot harder to crack than a single word. Watch out for shared machines. Always log yourself out if you've logged into any of your online spaces, and I'm sure loads of us have had, the Facebook experience where friends left their machine logged in, and it's very tempting that you could go in and post all sorts of stuff. But taking security seriously and being aware that mobile devices are also important to secure, because you are the platform. It's your identity, so you should manage it, track it, and own it. So that is basically, I'm just going to now quickly check and see. So yeah, that's basically my potted history of, business structures, tools, approaches, the things you need to be thinking of. I know it seems really overwhelming at the moment, but just sleep on it and just think about how what I've been talking about today applies to your individual needs and requirements, not just now, but in the future. Because that's what I've been trying to do with my book and with these workbooks and these lectures, is kind of give you a snapshot of the future, a look forward to what you may need to be doing down the line, so you can be thinking about what you can be doing today to make tomorrow where you want to be. So, any questions?
Anything that in there that kind of arose piqued your curiosity, or wonder how this adds up to that? So yeah, thank you so much, Helen. It's just
You're welcome.
It's wonderful. You're quite like a precious resource to us. We really appreciate it. All the things that you've gotten together and the way that you frame it and put it is just very valuable, and it's hard to kind of fathom it at first, I know, because the first time I heard your presentations, I also was like, wow. But it's great stuff, and then thank you for sharing it all. So it's all on Moodle now, guys. You have access to courses. Can the students contact you if they do have a question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, by all means, you can email me studio@mohawkmedia.co.nz. Also, if you want to connect to me on LinkedIn, it's the same address. And yeah, by all means, if you have any questions, I mean, emailing me is the easiest, because you can just send me a few questions and then I can kind of like reply in my own time. But the thing to remember is, when you're sort of, stuck in the edit suite or in your home studio and you just think that, you're the only person going through all of this stuff, you're not. We all do. And actually, it really is down to processes. If you've got good, clear processes, that you follow every time you do a similar kind of task. You don't have to think and you don't have to make decisions. So I think that's probably the best bit of advice I can give you. It's like every time we get a new contractor in or a new client in, I've got a step-by-step process I follow, same time, and it just makes it easier. So it is about thinking about, you know, how you can do that so that you have more time to enjoy making the work you do and less time spent running around and, you know, managing and administering it. But yeah, and the thing is, there's so many great apps now that help you with this, and there's so many tools that support you that it is getting easier in a lot of ways. And it's exciting, you know, the fact that we can be in New Zealand, living in the future, because we've got the time zone advantage, working internationally with people all over the planet without having to leave the country, and that really excites me. I think it's wonderful, best of both worlds.
Thank you so much again, Helen, and again, continued good luck with your book.
Thank you.
It's only about $8 New Zealand, all this stuff and more. You know, I'm hawking it there. Anyway, have a great weekend. And,
thank you.
And yes, thanks again.
Yeah. So have a good one, everyone. Bye.
Mm-hmm.